Alright, welcome back, and I'm not gonna act like I skip 4 days. Well, two of them I was doing stuff, and the first two wasn't feeling a story. But now that I am, this is a new one, and I'm gonna do the Predator one next. I just wanted to get this one out the way because I spent way too much time cooking this in my head that I just want to do this one and the Predator one, so hopefully I can get both done tonight, but if not, it's always time for tomorrow. But yeah, here we go. What if Deku was a necromancer? Or a lich, either way you go, he's gonna do both, basically. But, yeah. The way I'm gonna start this is, I'm gonna explain the lore for the world, actually. Basically, there's like one person who reigned over all, because this was like, it's a supreme lich. What he did was, instead of people having like, mixed races like giants, demi-humans and all stuff like that, he made the human part of it the most dominant. So instead of having powers and spells, it made it like mutated it into like their own things, like quirks. So think of Todoroki. He'd be a mix of like a devil and a frost giant, and that's how he got fire and ice. But this specific person, and Deku, he, however, is special in a way, because oh shit, I forgot to press that. But he is let's say he's the I'm supposed to hate sad beginnings. He's a very weak, scrawny child. Well, he's an orphan, really, but weak, scrawny child, pretty much. I'm not gonna go into the story about his orphan, how he became an orphan. It's just like, it wasn't. Inko basically couldn't take care of him. Like, she knew she couldn't take care of him. There's no problems with her taking care of him or anything. It's just like, she didn't have the money to take care of him. Like, she didn't have the financial backing like she usually does to take care of him. And that's what she basically did, like any other person would do in that situation. Give him up to orphanage. Deku was born pretty much weaker than most, though he made up for this with a very strong quirk that I'll discuss later. But he basically has the ability to just see and talk to ghosts, yet not the ability to bring. He has the ability to see and talk to ghosts. And I'm gonna say a certain person, because he's been an orphan for like 4 years, and when he turns 4, he basically goes to the quirk doctor, and when they examine his quirk, they say, oh, they just call it like paranormal. And because this specific person, aka the lich, the lich basically, and he's a doctor at the hospital. I know, ironic, right? A lich, someone who takes actually people and pretty much uses their bodies. Actually, yeah, he takes interest in this kid because he was the doctor who did his quirk thing, and I must say he interested in him because of the way he looks, like the green eyes, the dark green hair, and the fact that he can see ghosts the same as him, or spirits, or however you want to put them. So I'm gonna say, like, and yes, I did time skip 4 years because there was no point, because all he was doing is talking to ghosts. But yeah, after the 4 years, the first 4 years it was just him talking and listening to the spirits of all kind. Good, bad, neutral, chaotic good, chaotic evil. Basically, any spirit that was roaming the earth he could talk to. But I must say, after hearing about this kid's quirk, that's some warm ass water. The doctor sets up an arrangement with the orphanage. Well, basically, or the lich. I'm gonna just call him. Yeah, he's the lich. Basically, the lich sets up a meeting with the. I'm gonna say the head nun of the orphanage. Now, this nun is like the nun in freaking. Looks like the nun in Black Clover. I'm not gonna lie, the one that Asta's always crushing over, yet can never get with because she's not giving him the time of day because she's a nun. So this nun basically sits and talks to the lich, and mind you, the lich isn't nervous because of the fact that he's getting a child. He's nervous because of the fact that he's sitting in a church. Pretty much that's what the whole thing is. He's a church. He's everything against the church. He legit reanimates people, does dark magic, the whole nine basically with him. So he's slowly dying. I mean, not dying. It's more like he's slowly getting drained. So he's trying to hurry up this meeting. So I'm gonna say after about a good half an hour of paperwork, he basically meets Deku and basically lets him know that I'm basically going to be adopting you and turning you into my apprentice. And mind you, because this is a doctor at the time, everyone thought okay, Deku's going to be his little apprentice, little protege. No, it's quite the opposite. As soon as Deku gets adopted, he's thrown into a world full of necromancy, pretty much. And yes, I'm gonna say this is when the necromancer basically notices Deku's quirk and tells him look, you're this is just the beginning of your journey into into doing what I do. And when he says what, and Deku as a kid, he'd be like, being a doctor, and he would be he basically says something like that, and he basically goes to explain what his quirk is. Oh, not quirk, but what his power is. And Deku would think isn't that's cool, but it's evil. And he says, well, if you think about it this way, necromancy is just, reanimating the dead is just is bad if it's in the hands of the wrong person. And not only that, you can, with this magic, you can actually heal people too. I know it's weird, but yeah, you can. And Deku, upon hearing this, he was like, okay, you have to take the good with the... And he basically tells Deku, you have to take the good with the bad. And Deku basically agrees, to that, okay. So, mind you, this is day one of them being together. Now, mind you, this lich has been a lich for a very, very, very long time. As in, he's been around since D&D First E, where everything was complete another dog shit broken. There was 13th level spells all over the place. You can kill a guy. So he was around from first to 5e. So, upon meeting Deku, he basically notices that, because of what he did, this kid's power is laid very dormant behind his ability to see ghosts. So he knows the way to do this, yet he doesn't want to do it to an extent, because he's if I do this, I'll turn him into me. And then he realized at the same time that he can just do the same thing that he did and he can still be human. But the way this lich is that his organs have stopped working long ago, so he's just moving. Pretty much. He's an old husk of himself. What he's trying to do to Deku, however, is skip the dying process with the lich and turn him into... He's trying to turn him into a lich, but skip the death process. Which is possible, but, it actually is very possible. For him, at least. Because Deku, I'm gonna say it's weird, but he's basically done the bloodline of this lich. because the lich, yes, was human at one point and had kids, and his kids had kids, and Deku was like his lost great. Yeah, I'm not even gonna go down like that. So, like, because of what the lich did, his family has had this dark magic, and he realized that in Deku pretty much, and in turn, like, comes to like adopt Deku into his whole thing. Now, upon seeing Deku, like he, like as soon as they get in like his house or lair, whatever you want to call it, within the first 5 minutes, he turns around and puts his hand in Deku's chest. Not gonna lie, he puts his hand in a chopping motion and puts his hand straight in Deku's chest. Like, there's no barrier, there's no, oh, it's just, like, there's no, I need an adult. No, he is the adult. He just, like, puts his hands, oh, wait. Yeah, he does that and alters Deku's DNA to an extent. He's basically, like, making Deku's quirk hit singularity before, like, he can work it out. So, upon this, he basically caused Deku's quirk to undergo singularity, and as such, now he has the same abilities as necromancy. Now, after he figures that, okay, he has it now, I can't even say that line. That's horrible. That's the first time I have to reconsider saying he pulls out. Because that's not a good line to use. But yeah, I already said it. And basically, like, the wound heals because he made it, and Deku is on the ground coughing now, and basically feels the dark energy flowing through him. And it's kind of like, you know how Broly went Super Saiyan, kinda. It's like that. Like, flashing and everything, just the building does, just, you know, a huge beam of light doesn't shoot the building, but it is a huge flash. And Deku now, basically, eyes are more of a glowing, bright green. Hair looks the same, though. And to this, now he can basically see the dead and not only communicate with them, but physically harm them. I mean, touch them. There was this one ghost he had. A ghost of... Well, this is the only Mortal Kombat character I'm including in this because I actually like the character Spiritor. He's now physically able to touch them. And basically, like... He can already understand them, but he never was able to touch them and they could touch him back. Thus upon seeing this, the lich basically says, like, oh, okay, so you do have an aptitude for necromancy, just like me. That means you probably have an aptitude for different things. No, that's not for here nor there. Now I'll teach you this dark art for you to become a hero, or whatever you choose to be, but hopefully not a villain. And yeah, that's what he spends the next 9 years doing. Practicing the necromancy, pretty much. Now, through these 9 years, he was able to... Really? Like, really? I'm actually quoting myself. Like, what am I, mumble rapper? Now, I'm gonna do it like this. From 4 to 7, he's able to pull out Farah from Tor. Like, he's only able to summon people that he has enough mental strength to keep control of. Because it's not like it's not the fact that he needs the stamina. He needs the mental capacity to keep up with, like, that. And yes, he does have an altitude for, like, zombies and things, but as being said, like, matter of fact, yeah, I'm gonna do this, like, as a little sidetrack, from, like, when he was 4 to 7, as soon as he summoned Farah, like, the quirk doctor had him reassessed, and basically they changed his quirk from like paranormal to summoning to hide the fact that it's necromancy. And basically, the lich basically tells him to use the necromancy to make it look like they're a physical living thing instead of like a skeleton or something. Because yeah, Deku has reanimated a whole bunch of skeletons. Like he can have an army of skeletons as long as they're small. He can have them move out. But however, that takes a lot of energy to summon them both. Like from 4 to 7, he's able to summon Farah, but when he summons Tor, like is when he's reached his limit. It's like he's at most he can keep both of them in from like 4. Actually, from 4 to 6, he's able to keep both of them in for like 5 minutes, then 10, then 15. Then when he gets to 8, he can keep them both in for 20 minutes. And the Lich basically says like, this is progress, but it's way too slow. So basically he says, I'm gonna hit you with this. You need to bring more people in so you can so the training becomes harder. And as such, like you will begin to sleep less because you are technically a lich. You're not a powerful lich, but you're pretty much a lich at this point because of how you're doing things. And like basically because of the years they say he's studied up on liches, Deku basically says, but I haven't killed anyone or anything like that for a sacrifice. And what the lich says is, you don't have to. I, however, have had 2,000 years worth of things, plus hospitals. So I pretty much did that for you. So you are a lich now. And Deku just looks at him and says, what the fuck? And just like continues training. Like Deku, what he wanted to say was, what the fuck is wrong with you? But then he realized that that's a supreme lich, like the most supreme lich you could ever think of. And he was like, you know, that was what he did. Like, and when he asked the lich, like, oh, how did you get so many bodies in the first place? The lich would respond with, well, I've created a couple dungeons. The dungeons had many things, but many people would die there, and I just used the bodies to get stronger and stronger until I reached this point. And now I'm using them exact same bodies to get you stronger. And which Deku responds with, how? And the lich basically says like this, and dumps in some bodies into a well, and basically like uses the magic and throws it on Deku. And Deku gets a boost a little bit, and basically the lich says, I do that in your sleep when you actually, like, I can do that a lot in your sleep so you don't wake up. You're a lich, you really don't need to sleep. But you choose to, because you're technically still human. Well, to an extent, at least. I mean, your organs still run, so I guess you're human. But yeah, over time he starts bringing in other things. Besides from Ferritor, and yes, he can keep them in a lot longer than he used to now. Like, he can, like, because of all the energy the freaking lich was throwing at him, he's able to keep Ferritor in for a couple days at most. I mean, like a week. Like, just them two in. But he starts to add more people in, and as such, more ghosts start to flock around Deku. Because to the ghosts, he's known as the person who brings life to the souls. Because, you know, he brings the souls back. And I'm gonna say from 8 to 13, he can summon 5 people, but his limit is 5 for a total of 5 minutes, depending on who is in. But he has noted that Ferritor doesn't require any energy to summon no more, and the Lich even notes this. Like, the Lich says, and I quote in his journal, that once summoned for a long enough time, it does not require any mental energy to summon no more. And that's how Farah and Tor are. They can be summoned on a whim and even come back into the world of the living themselves just because of the fact that Deku has had them in the world of the living so long. He's basically finessed the system. So I'm gonna say at the age of 13, basically, like, because the doctor is in contact with, everyone is in contact with Nezu. Like, everyone, like, big in Japan. Like, he's known for saving people. Well, the doctor, the lich is known for saving people, which isn't really saving people. It's more like he's preventing them from dying. Like, legit, that's all he's doing, just delaying them from dying. Like, he'd delay them for a couple years, and then, like, there's nothing he could do. And that's what, like, that's what he explains to Deku. Like, necromancy can be used for good and or bad. I can use, like, the good necromancy, as you can see, as I saved countless people and made them live countless years after that. But when the magic is up, there's no, I can't fix it. I gave them a couple more years on their lives, and that's it. And the bad part, and he says the bad part about necromancy is the fact that, like, if you, like, the more you kill, the stronger you get. If you choose not to kill, you'll just stagnate. But you, however, are different. Because, like, you are a lich, but you aren't. You're human. So the more you train, the stronger you'll get. Instead of you having to sacrifice people. But and the lich says, but I'm still sacrificing people and throwing energy at you. And he just throws another, like, power buff at him. And basically, Deku's time limit went up by, like, a couple seconds again. And Deku's basically saying, like, yeah, that's doing nothing now. Like, when I was a kid, that was doing big things. Now it's just, like, it's adding a few seconds. Like, please stop. And the lich basically says, like, okay, but... I set up a meeting with an important person for your future. Because, yes, you have been homeschooled these past 10 years. Because you didn't need school when you had the supreme leader of knowledge here. And Google. And many other resources. But anyway, like, I'm setting up a meeting with the teacher of the, like, what's it called? Of UA, basically. And Deku would say, oh, like the number one hero school in the land. And the lich basically says yes. And I'm setting up a meeting with them to get you a recommendation letter. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Deku has not done any physical training as such, because liches don't really need the physical training. So Deku, like, he isn't weak by far, but he's just, like, below average when it comes to strength and speed. Though with the necromancy, he can do a lot of things to make up for it. Like, so Deku's more of a far back fighter. I can't even, like, because he knows fire, like, he knows, like, spells, but it's not, like, it's, like, dark spells that he uses for good. Like, he can throw lightning, fire, water. He can do a lot of things. Oh, that's disgusting, actually. He can actually throw plague at people. As in sickness. He's the epitome of using a bad power for good. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm gonna say he gets his quirk checked one more time, because, you know, when your quirk hits singularity and it hits it twice, it's kind of weird. So instead, it went from summoning to... How should I word this? They call it soul magic, pretty much. No, in fact, no, they just call the power soul. Because they think that's how he basically conjures up these things. He uses his own energy to. Which they aren't wrong, but they aren't right either. And yeah, I'm gonna say at 13, he basically, like, the lich meets Nezu, they talk, and Nezu agrees to give Deku a recommendation test. And no, I'm not going over the recommendation test, because there's no point. Because I don't know what's in that recommendation test. All I know is that there's Todoroki, Momo, the tornado guy, and that's pretty much it in the recommendation test. But Deku hasn't... I forgot to mention this. Deku hasn't been outside since he was 4. So he's been a shut-in since he was 4, so... I'm gonna say the first time he goes outside for 9 years is when he goes to take the exam. And as such, Deku is pale. Like, he's paler in comparison to a lot of people. Because yes, all you do is sit around in a house all the time, or a cave for a couple years, yes, you will get pale as hell. So, like, as soon as he steps out the house, like, he starts getting a tan almost, and his skin starts returning back to his normal color. But it'll take a while. And as such, he starts making his way using Google Maps, because yes, the Lich is rich. And Deku has a freaking iPhone, yada yada yada. Even the Lich, like, in the Lich basically said, like, the only reason why I got you an iPhone because it was expensive as hell. Like, and he said, like, in that quote, I don't need this money, I just have it. So he's basically buys Deku an iPhone pretty much, and basically tells him, like, look, use this to get to school. And if you guys are wondering where Inko is, Inko basically isn't in Japan anymore. Like, she basically decided to move away from Japan because it was too painful for her to realize that... No, actually, she's still in Japan. She's just in, like, a very different part of Japan. And, yes, she will meet Deku later. It's just, like, it's too late for her to, like, adapt him back because he's pretty much his own person. But they'll still meet. But, yeah, I'm gonna continue. Like, after he goes to recommendation exam and does that. Like, he meets Momo and Todoroki. And the tornado guy, but he isn't really, and Deku really isn't interested in none of them because, you know, like, he doesn't have a caring bone right now. He's just there to do the test and get out. This might as well just be another version of Ermac, the way I was just thinking of a power. But no, I'm not gonna do that because makes no sense. As you know, like, I don't know any of the recommendation tests, so I'm gonna say he does pretty well on it, considering. So he heads back home and basically tells the Lich, like, I did pretty good. The test did fine. Even the written portion, I think I, like, got way over 100. And the Lich tells him, like, that's pretty much what I get from my great. I mean, from my freaking, like, my bloodline, pretty much. And when he says, like, what do you mean by that? He was like, oh, when I checked your DNA, you're, like, way down the line from me. I'm like your great. And then he was like, by the time I get done with these greats, it'll probably be like nighttime. So basically, I'm just your grandpa Lich. And Deku basically, like, shakes his head. He was like, you couldn't tell me that at the age of 4. But you want to tell me at the age of 13, you're my great-grand Lich. And the Lich says, pretty much. And Deku just says, alright. And after that, the week's period starts. And Deku basically gets his letter early because, you know, recommendation. And it basically says, like, Deku's been accepted into Class 1A. And as such, like, the time the school began, went, like, how the school, like, what class to go to, and everything. So Deku basically lets the Lich know. He says, I'm not really surprised. And they continue working on many things. Because, yes, dark magic's still a thing. They just aren't as evil as many people think a Lich would be. Because, yeah, as time goes on, people start to change. The Lich isn't by far good. He doesn't have any goals anymore because, you know, once you meet immortality, that's it. His only goal is basically just to live. I mean, just to work, pretty much. Like, he even said it himself to Deku at one point. He said, if I could work 24 hours at the hospital, I would. I try to work 7 days out the week. Like, only 20 hours. But sadly I can't because, you know, laws. So On my spare time, I like to do things like this. And it's basically potion making, which people call medicine, because he changes the color and makes it like seem like it's not a potion, but it is. He doesn't make poisons no more because, once you almost get busted for doing that a couple years back, you don't want to do it again. But yeah, like I'm gonna say time passes during the week's period, then Deku's not ready for school. Now, mind you, Deku basically can float, float slash fly because of like think of no, I can't even say think of the magic like Doctor Strange when you can't. Deku basically like floats. Like walks to 1A and takes a train and stuff. I don't think he could. Yeah, there's a flight spell. I forgot all about that. Deku basically like gets in front of his classroom and enters. And mind you, the first thing he sees is like usual, Itachi not Bakugo. And Deku as a lich just doesn't care. Like he just looks at it and basically says like, and just gives them a look like, please stop. And the only reason, and they stop because when you meet Deku in the eyes or see him, you see like an intimidating thing of like death around him because he's a lich. All you feel is like the aura of death is surrounding you. So they stop not because it's Deku, it's because the aura around him screams like, just listen or you will die. Like there's no question, you'll die. And they basically stop. But Bakugo gets a little PO'd at this because he wants that kind of energy that says, leave me the fuck alone. And Deku has that energy. So as such, dumbass number 1 decides to try and freaking, like, basically starts to try to chew out Deku. And because Deku isn't like that, Deku doesn't want to deal with it, he basically just says, Tor. He immediately says Tor, and he says 1. What Tor does is basically come out of, like, the spirit, his arm comes out of the freaking spirit realm, basically, and just, like, jaws, like, Bakugo, and almost puts him through the window, until, like, Deku basically says, like, Tor not that hard, and basically grabs Bakugo before he can fly out the window. And Bakugo's asleep. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Tor is strong as fuck. So, like, a 1 clean hit to the jaw knocked Bakugo the fuck out. It was basically, it was like turning like an A freaking full like I'm nigga Jaeger. And he went night. And now Bakugo is just asleep in a chair with his jaw almost off his freaking face. And Deku basically says, like, I really don't want to heal you, but fuck it. And basically, he just heals Bakugo's jaw back into place while he's asleep. But Bakugo having good dreams right now. He dreaming of sheep, cattle, many things. And I'm going to say that's the first day. Because, yeah, I don't want to go any further into it. I want to see how this goes. But yeah, that's it for tonight, I think, because I am getting tired and my eyes are itchy as fuck. I thought I was going to be able to do Predator, but I guess not. Because Predator, like, I like the story. It's just, I took 2 weeks off of it, and now I'm just looking at it like, I really need to get back into that. There's many series I'm going to do, and I don't know why I keep bringing in new ones. But I think I'm going to just stick to, like, the series I have now, until I get, like, an idea. Like, there was another one I was going to do, like, what if Deku can summon video game characters? But at the same time, I was like, this dude can summon Master Chief, Kratos, and Doomslayer, and that's the story. He can just summon Master Chief, and Chief would gun down people, and kill Nomus. Kratos, do the same thing. Freaking, who else? Who was the other person I said? I don't even remember. And yes, at the end of the video, I have a little bit of rant, so like a couple minutes, or depending on how I feel. Basically, like, the only reason why I'm not doing that one like the video game one is because of the fact that that's the story right there. He's just he can just summon one hero, and that hero can basically like almost one tap the fucking villains, because heroes in games and stuff are unnerfed and basically unhinged. Say if you wanted to say like, I want to bring in Redman from freaking like Def Jam, like Battle for New York. Redman will be able to like jump and slam half the people because of the fact that in the game there's no stats to how strong you are. It's just you're strong. But that's pretty much it. If you like it, please let me know. Though, like, I can see it. Nah, I can't. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, thank you for stopping by to the cove where my water is warm because I forgot to put it in the refrigerator. That's my bad. And yeah, this has been What If Deku was the necromancer. Sorry for not having enough action, but you know, had to set the grounds. So peace.